So today was going to be a product review of the Oculus Rift. It's something I've wanted to do as part of my podcast. I get into more cultural things, more of the technology things. I really enjoy technology. I've got a great love of it, which is why I do podcasts on technology. And I finally had saved up enough to put into an Oculus Rift, and I had been setting the money aside for holidays when people would get gifts. I'd be like Best Buy gift cards. And I finally ordered it, and my system, come to find out, despite what it says on the box, is not compatible with the Oculus. And I'll get into that whole story here in a few minutes. Before we really dive into the podcast, though, I want to let you know of some things that will be going on. I am striving to provide more content, especially for my patrons, and having just completed the Fallout New Vegas playthrough, and yet there's a lot of the game I have not explored or gotten into. I will be starting to produce patron-exclusive videos of Fallout New Vegas, and all of the parts based on my live stream, so it'll be the same save files as on my live stream, will be for patrons only. And you can go to patreon.com/Julien McBain, become a member, and you'll have access to that content. My goal is to start putting out one of those once a week, in addition to the exclusive Julien McBain Show podcast that I will do once a month there. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to do my best. You know, life is a thing that exists, and I can't always do what I want, but I will make every effort to make that work. Further, I am going to continue to strive to provide more content for you, my viewers, that are on the free side of things. I am trying to figure out how to work that in. We will see how it works from there. If you want to continue to support me, please make sure you share these videos. YouTube does not like the fact that I moved into the podcasting space out of the gaming space. I have noticed that my numbers have dropped dramatically. So if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you to the manor and ask that you hit the subscribe button. And if you're not new, please share these videos to your social media to help me overcome that algorithmic downplay. And without further ado, we're navigating the cyberpunk dystopia. This is the Julien McBain Show. Today, the Julien McBain Show is brought to you by Helply. Helply is a computer repair shop local in Barrie City, Vermont. It is run by Toby Bernier, who is actually someone I went to school with. And although he is not sponsoring me, without the information he provided to me today, I would not be able to let you know what I know in this show. And so I just want to thank him and thank Helply for the 10 or 15 minutes worth of time. That literally gave me far more information than I had been able to glean in 6 hours of work. So, okay. Today's show was originally going to be a product review of the Oculus Rift S. I had been privileged to save up enough money, mostly in gift cards from various holidays, to purchase the Oculus Rift S. I was very excited. I ordered it in. Came in. It's beautiful. And currently it's sitting in its box right over there. And the reason it's sitting there is because it is not compatible with my system. Now here's the problem. The system specs on the box state that it is. And apparently a firmware update, because of complaints from consumers, caused that to no longer be the case. This is the short version of the story, because there is a long version. I actually nuked an earlier take of this video where I went through the whole story because I just thought it was not good. So the long story short, Toby let me know that, hey, he has a Rift S. He ended up having to upgrade his graphics card because he went from a 1050 with 4 gigs of RAM. 4 gigs just won't cut it. And despite what the box says, a 970 with 4 gigs, which is what I have, won't cut it. My graphics card runs Cyberpunk 2077 at max graphics. It can't handle a VR headset, which I kind of get because it's like trying to run 2 4K monitors. 4 gigs of RAM may not be enough, especially if it's really, really flashy. And when you have full motion detection, okay, to a certain, I can kind of accept that. Here's the frustration. When the specs on the box state something, your product better damn well work with those specs. Or you need to take the specs off the box or have a disclosure when someone goes to order it that there has been an update. So unfortunately, I'm kind of shut out of the VR world for a little while until I can save up for a 1060 or a 1080 that will actually operate the headset. In the meantime, I do want to talk about virtual reality and where we're going with virtual reality, because I think that the VR space is something that is going to become heavily influential in our lives and within the next 20 years. Now, virtual reality is still woefully underdeveloped. And it's not the fault of tech companies. The fact of the matter is your early adopters always have a huge barrier to entry, right? The headsets themselves, they're only starting to come down in price now. The Oculus started at $400. The Vive is $600. And if you go overseas, like if you go to England, it's £600, not dollars, pounds, sterling. And for those of you who don't know, the pound sterling is like $1.50. And I think it's somewhere in the range of like 650 to 700 euro. So it's not a cheap piece of equipment. And then you have to have specialized software for it. And the core system you need to operate it also has high specs. As I stated before, my 970 won't carry it. It requires at least a 1060 and a 1080 is better. The 1060 is going to run about $700. And a 1080 is $1,200, $1,200 for a 1080 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that's what you really theoretically need. And then finding them, because Bitcoin miners snatch them up or crypto miners snatch them up as soon as they're on the shelf, is also a problem. So VR's had a lot of hurdles to cross, and mobile VR, unfortunately, is not a space that's been developed very well, which I think is a shame, because I think mobile VR has so much potential to it, but there aren't people with the necessary skills developing in mobile. There aren't. I was able to play one really good kind of Portal-esque game in mobile VR. I've got a Daydream because I have a Pixel. And I want to see more games like that because it's entry level. It's an easy entry level. The cost of equipment, you buy your phone that's compatible. You put it into the little headset that's only $100, which I technically think is overpriced, but I think you're more paying for the remote than you are for the head goggle. And you slip your phone into it. And a Snapdragon 845 is basically the mobile version of an i5. I mean, okay, it's not an i7, it's not an i9, but an i5 is it's pretty tanky when it comes to processing power. And considering the limitations of mobile to begin with, it's not like you're going to have to worry about it too much. And mobile's beautiful. They're putting OLED screens on your phone. So you get those true blacks because you can just turn the pixel off and it makes for a really clear picture. So I'm hoping to see more mobile VR development happen. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot of it. VR itself doesn't have a huge amount of development going for it, but here's why I think it is a powerful technology, and here's why I think it's going to end up really taking over. So virtual reality has the ability to totally immerse you, like utterly immerse you into the environment. And it certainly has its limitations, but because of the immersion, the gameplay experience is so dramatically different than most games that you, to quote Up Is Not Jump, who has a fantastic channel, you're no longer in your house. You're teleported to the place in the game. And for that one, I think he was talking about Fallout 4 VR. The detail in VR games is noticeable. And even if you're in a more basic one, you're like the BBC has a like A Wonderful World. It's what the hell is the name of the guy who narrates it? He's a big narrator for nature shows in England. The name's going to come to me after I shut the camera off. But anyway, he narrates the whole thing, right? And you go through and you're just immersed. And it's just educational. Like, you're not swimming around. It's just educational. And I was in there and I had this huge sense of wonder, even though it was completely cartoony. It was completely cartoony. But I still had a sense of wonder because it was so amazing. I didn't even feel the anxiety of being underwater because you're underwater for most of it. Okay? Like playing Subnautica, I got some freaking anxiety playing Subnautica. I'm kind of aquaphobic. And the sad part is I love boats, but I hate the idea of being underwater. And I'll do it because, that, in my opinion, that's what that's how you overcome those things. You subject yourself to it. Exposure therapy does wonderful things. But I'm down in the deeps. I'm in that volcano, and I just feel this creeping anxiety because I know that even though I'm in my room and I'm playing on a computer, I'm so immersed. It's like I'm actually underwater. And now you put a VR headset in that mix, because Subnautica VR comes with Subnautica, and that had been my plan, against my better judgment, to at least try it in VR. That would have been nuts. It would have been awesome, but it would have been nuts. But that immersion teleports you away from where you are into that place, and there is nothing like it. And I've done that, and I know that because I've played mobile VR, and with the earplugs in to block out all the sound because you're noise canceling earplugs, I couldn't tell that I wasn't in that virtual room. And you really forget that it's not natural to be in that space. And that's why I think that's the future, because we are looking for the ability to have more experiences like that. I believe it was Ready Player One, where it's an actual cyberpunk dystopia, and they live their lives in the virtual world. You know, what's the difference between that and Sword Art Online? There isn't a huge difference, except you could actually log out. But I think that's the direction we're going in a lot of ways, which is part of the reason I call it the cyberpunk dystopia. So what do we need to do to make VR work for us? The first thing we need to do is let companies know we are interested in virtual reality. And hopefully with the cost of entry into the VR space coming down, we're going to have more people able to adopt those VR headsets into the virtual space. I believe there's actually a VR MMO now that I saw on Steam, and it's probably only got a few thousand players, and it looks like it's more of like a walking simulator type, but it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. It gets us there. Can you imagine a WoW scale, a World of Warcraft scale VR MMORPG like Sword Art Online, but the ability to log out and not have your brain be destroyed if you die? It would revolutionize gaming. Not only that, but it would revolutionize social interaction. Fact of the matter is, World of Warcraft is as much a dating app as it is a friggin' video game. Entropia Universe, this game here, is as much a social app as it is a game. That's why I call it a platform. Friendships are developed within the platform, and they've never seen each other's faces. Now imagine if you add in body language, because that's what VR allows you to do. Hand gestures and movement, and needing to be able to trust that your friend is going to be able to leap in front of you or have your back. And it's different when you move your body. And so I really think that is where we're going to be heading. And I like the idea that that's where we're going to be heading, which is why it's such a fucking disappointment that the flagship hardware of virtual reality, when you say virtual reality, everyone thinks Oculus. Absolutely everyone. Which is why it's a travesty that their requirements on box are categorically false. And here's where it comes to the other half of this. We need to hold these companies accountable. We need to tell these companies, look, this is basically false advertising. In my opinion. In my opinion, this is false advertising. You advertised a product with certain requirements, and it did not meet that standard. We're talking hours of time trying to troubleshoot it, the wait of waiting for it to come in, and now I'm stuck with a paperweight. And I'm sure and I know for a fact I'm not the only one. The guy at Helply had the same problem. He ended up having to order himself a new graphics card. So, I mean, true, as new computers develop and higher graphics card becomes standard, most, if not all PCs, gaming PCs at the very least, will be VR capable. And admittedly, my computer's an early VR ready computer, and it's not surprising that the technology would eventually outstrip the computer's capabilities. That doesn't make it acceptable for them to put the wrong specs on the box. So how do we do it? How do we hold them accountable? And that's the hard part, because we're talking some major corporations that develop this hardware. Oculus is owned by Facebook. And we can't hold Facebook accountable for being Facebook, let alone for hardware problems. Then HTC owns the Vive, and HTC is a massive corporation. I'm pretty sure they're out of China. Where is HTC out of? Huh, HTC Vive. Oh no, it's out of Taiwan. So the Republic of China, not the People's Republic of China, good China. It's out of Taiwan. So, okay. Well, there's no way we can hold them accountable if they put the wrong specs on. But here's the thing. HTC is more honest. HTC, I've never heard a complaint about their equipment not working because they put the specs on the box and they're the right ones. Windows had their mixed reality headset, which I think actually vanished. I don't even think they make it anymore because that was short-lived. And there were a bunch of others that created VR headsets too that were very short-lived, which I'm not surprised, but I am surprised. Like, from what I understand, the Windows mixed reality was supposed to be really good. But I guess there just wasn't enough that was compatible with it. They didn't do the ground testing. Like, HTC Vive is compatible with everything. You go on Steam, you check out VR, every single one is compatible with the Vive. Not so much with the Oculus, but most things are compatible with the Oculus. Not at all with Windows mixed reality. I won't say not at all. Not a lot. Not a lot with Windows mixed reality. So maybe that was the issue. Maybe Microsoft hoped they could dive into the hardware space and they just realized it wasn't worth the money that they had to dump into it to make it a viable product. And I can respect that. Bill Gates really doesn't need a friggin' monopoly on VR headsets too. And so what about for business applications? Well, VR for business is a thing. And in fact, MindArc, the people who developed the game before you here, are actually working on virtual reality software for business application. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to look. I honestly hope they use the Entropia platform long term to develop it. Believe me, if an Entropia Universe VR becomes a thing, like it becomes fully VR capable, I'm in. I'll do what I fucking need to make that work. Because, hell yes. But, and there are ways you can make Entropia Universe work with VR. They're kind of patchwork, but they'll function. And from what I understand, MindArc is continuing to work on making the Entropia platform much more VR capable. But it's going to take them time because it was not developed for VR. So I can totally respect that. They said it out front. We're working on it, but we can't make any guarantees because we didn't develop this game to work in VR because VR wasn't a thing in 2003. It was a hope. Like, we imagined virtual reality in the early 2000s. I had a Virtual Boy, which was actually a really cool 3D platform. I don't care what the critics said. I really liked my Virtual Boy. I thought it was awesome, and all I ever had for it was fucking tennis. So, talk about early adopter. But I do think it's where we're going, because when you have a business meeting, one of the biggest problems we have today with the pandemic is that we can't meet in person. And people are getting Zoom meetinged out because Zoom meetings are really impersonal. You're looking at people on a television. Now, it is better than it used to be. It's the video conference software. It's the video phone that Star Trek predicted on screen, and everyone's on the screen, and you can talk to all of them. Just like in the television shows where everyone was on the screen. Well, guess what? This is real life now. Oh, that was a nice global. This is real life now. We can do that. And that's why, like, currently the only two technologies we don't have that they predicted in Star Trek, we don't have replicators and we don't have warp drive. And if you say, well, what about Mr. Data? Go look at Sophia. We have computer software that can process faster than Data can. Okay? And I'm dead serious about that. Go look it up. Now, admittedly, the computers that can process faster than data are much larger than data, but it's the principle of the idea. The computer I'm playing this game on is more powerful than the theoretical computer on the Starship Enterprise. That is how far we've come. And we're only starting to break into the virtual space, the real virtual space, the full dive interactive virtual space. We're getting there. It's gonna happen. We all have to accept that it's gonna happen. We all have to look forward to what it's going to be. And my hope is that we can tell these companies, look, we're going to buy your product. We're going to make you billions because you developed the technology for us to get into the space. All we're asking is that you be honest with what you're required to have in order to get into that space. It's that simple. And then business applications, if I can walk into a meeting, knowing I have a meeting, the people I need to meet are too far away, or we have a global pandemic, or what have you. And instead, I can strap on a headset, I hit a couple buttons, and suddenly I'm teleported into a virtual meeting room. And I can see their avatars, and it looks like them. And they're decked out in whatever they like to dress in the virtual space. This is their true avatar. And we're all sitting around the long table. We're all having a discussion. It feels like I'm in the room with them. That is what I'm looking forward to. And I think it's going to happen in my lifetime. In fact, I guarantee it's going to happen in my lifetime. It's just, what is it going to look like and when? And that means if you're watching this, it's probably going to happen in yours as well. So how do we prepare for this? Well, it's really not difficult. If you're able to, if you have the devices to do so, if you have the money to do so, get into a VR space just to orient yourself in it. It's very disorienting at first. It takes a little bit of time. If you are used to things like flight simulators, like being a pilot, I had to do hours of simulation programs. That will help because you're used to the motion, but take the time to get used to it. Once you're in the space, then you're used to it. When it develops and comes out, you're not going to be really disoriented and not knowing what's going on. And then this will encourage software developers to develop software to make VR more flexible. There'll be more things to do. More people will want to play. And that's going to eventually drive the cost of headsets down because they'll be making a profit on it. Once the development costs are done, the cost of those VR headsets are going to drop like a rock. That's why the Oculus just dropped by $100. I think they finally made up a good part of the research and development on it. Either that or the demand's so low it's terrible, which is actually surprising because you could never fucking find them before. And I'd say probably another 5 to 10. It's going to be just like the old PlayStations, right? When it comes out, it's $400. And then just before the next generation console comes out, drops to $2. Computers. $1,800 computer, $400 at Walmart now. And I mean, there's a new $1,800 computer, but the computer that was $1,800 10 years ago is now like $300. Same capabilities is what I mean. In fact, the one that's $300 is probably better than the one that was $1,800 before, because that's how technology develops. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I have no bones about it. Doesn't mean I'm not pissed off at Oculus, though. I know. This has been kind of a random rant. I'm mostly sorry. But fact of the matter is, VR it's such an amazing thing. And I really can't wait for it to become more common, because I really feel like that is going to be the thing. And to be able to play a game and just be immersed. When I played that mobile VR game, I was just totally immersed. I lost track of time. I took the headset off. A fucking hour and a half had passed. It felt like 15 minutes. Because there's no clock in the headset. You're just playing. And so, I don't know. I lost it. Okay, guys. I want to thank you for watching. And I want to let you know that, once again, I am bringing more exclusive content to the Patreon page. I will be doing Fallout New Vegas content for the Patreon page. I will continue doing the monthly Julien McBain Show exclusive for the Patreon page. I might even start putting up my nuked videos just so y'all can laugh at me. So please consider becoming a patron, and we'll see you in the next one. The Julien McBain Show is a McBain Manor production. I am your host, Julien McBain. My moderators for live shows are Kat J. Lambertson and Captain Aubrey, who make sure that my life goes much more smoothly in chat. And a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons from Kryptonite, J. Lambertson, Spectrum 3600, for your support, without whose support I could not do things like the Cyberpunk 2077 production I am doing now live Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/JulienMcBain. For the cost of only $5 a month, you can become a member and get access to all of the exclusive content there. Once again, I want to thank you. This has been The Julien McBain Show.